Welcome, creatives, community, and kind folks to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And of course, we have to have the Day of Dragons. So I'm not going to go into too much preamble, but I will say that, if you're going to bother having dungeons and you're going to have dragons, we got to have a Day of Dragons. And I think we're going to have to really think outside the box on this one. I don't have any silly creative intro to this except thinking of like your um, your players or your player characters cresting a hill and seeing a vast landscape filled with swarms of insects and maybe bats or birds. But then as they get closer to the town, they realize that those swarms of tiny insects are each massively huge, impossibly large dragons. Each of them ancient in their own way. The awe and splendor and wonder and fear of seeing each one, and then imagining them multiplied 1,000-fold as they swarm and dive and swoop around the sky, and understanding that on this Day of Dragons, yeah, those singular dragons hidden away in their caves and mountainsides or whatnot have come out, and maybe on this Day of Dragons is the one day amongst many, once a year, once every 10 years, once every 1,000 years, that they come out of their homes, maybe to breed or are gathered together to enable some kind of treaty that they have with each other territorially, or maybe a massive government, or even an honor to when in ancient days dragons were the lords of the world. But whatever the case may be, we're going to talk about it. But let's start the intro first. Let people get find the channel, come in live, and then we'll get back into it. So, see ya. All right, so yeah, today the Day of Dragons. This has got to be one we'll probably have to revisit multiple times, and also it kind of brings up a having trying not to invest in this too much because I like to be very spontaneous in this, and it kind of brings up a little subject about dragons in general, the fantasy of them and implementing them in our tabletop role playing games, and that's the fact that we don't have enough of them. We don't incorporate them enough in, I think, in gaming, and I think in the rules that we use don't incorporate them. I'm surprised we don't have enough game settings where dragons are the proverbial leaders, overlords. They influence society and the landscape and the environment and economics and such like that. So we may end up, unfortunately, heading down the socioeconomic path when it comes to dragons. But for those who don't know, this process, this Day of Dragons idea, is basically taking a prompt, a simple word or a phrase, and then what we're going to do is just use that and world build. We're going to build upon it, and we'll get into some mechanics probably, simply because dragons themselves, when you start get, getting some of these BBEG monsters and you start multiplying their presence, sometimes it goes beyond simple like rolling initiative kind of things that they may become forces of nature unto themselves, and I think that might be the best part about it. Of course, we do have our co-hosts here in our live chat, and though they can't be here physically, they always bring their best and brightest. All right. Yeah, dead man. Yeah, no, remember, no matter how powerful you are still just a snack for a dragon. Uh, it's unfortunate that we really don't have numeric values that kind of represent that, because once players, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, my T-shirt doing a somewhat honorific to classic D&D is the fact that modern gaming, once you get about fifth to eighth level and above, um, it's weird how you aren't snackable when you really still should be. Even all dragons really ought to be apex predators in the sense of like you really shouldn't have any grasp of how powerful they are until you're at the highest echelons of gaming. But that's just a thing. Mike Mayer quoting was like, "We don't have enough dragons." Looks awkwardly at the endless releases of Skyrim on every platform. Yeah, yeah. In other platforms, I'll admit, in other platforms, they do a good job in ensuring that we get to see a ton of dragons. I admit that. I will admit that. And the fun, of course, in fighting them. Of course, dragons are like um, they are OP by design. I mean, physically, they're they're awesome. They have a predatorial kind of sexiness to them, especially based on the artist's rendering or computer generation or something like that. And then, of course, depending on how smart you make them, and the unique breath weapons. Most commonly, people think of them breathing fire, fire breathing dragons. But in fantasy, we know that they can exhale all kinds of dangerous things. And I think in a Day of Dragons, it would be kind of interesting to um, spark what kinds of relationships a society would have with those dragons when dozens and hundreds and thousands of them start basically exiting their homes and other worlds and other dimensions and gathering in a particular place. Not sure why they would gather. Maybe it's in honor of you guys bring up in honor of Tiamat or something. Hey there, Vince. Druden brings up a good thing, and I saw your comment there, Druden. I think you're hot too. Yeah. Juden's like, nah, dragons might be like natural disasters, but like those the human mind can find solutions to prevent the worst. I do agree with that. I mean, hell, we've tried to, we've been, ancient people have been sacrificing human beings, as you guys were mentioning, human beings to volcanoes and other events, trying to stop things. I mean, we'll think outside the box, and we're pretty we usually don't leave too many options on the table, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure there were some other options before, ancient Aztecs were starting to carve the hearts out of human beings. Like, is there some other way we could stop these horrors or the end of the world or natural disasters? And someone's like raising their hand, like, we can still do sacrifices. And they're like, shut up, we're trying to think of another idea. And it was like, I'm just saying, human sacrifice, that might be the best thing. Man, surely vegan dragons must exist. Actually, as sarcastic as that is, why not? Why wouldn't there be? I mean, the goodly metallic dragons. I'm sure there's a couple in there. Um, Although maybe they might not. The one vegan dragon is like always talking about how vegan they are, and everyone else is rolling their eyes. Like, here, purple dragons, orange dragons, yellow dragons, super rare. But here comes the vegan dragon, sandals, and uh, never mind. I was going to be sarcastic, but Dead Man says, or as they say in Shadowrun, be careful when dealing with dragons, for you are small and weak, and go great with ketchup. Shadowrun. Is would you think Shadowrun is probably one of the few uh fantasy, even though it's got modern cyberpunk science fiction in it, that really embraces the idea that dragons run like major corporations and governments and criminal organizations, and like really has embraced it? You don't really often see that too much in gaming. But anyway, okay. Um, yeah, Tiamat, since more heads are always more sexy. Yeah. In Skyrim, dragons are almost weak compared to giants. Mm, that's a shame, especially when they're like smaller and animalistic. The only day of year where dragons can turn into humans or back. Ooh, maybe they've been walking amongst us and we didn't know. That would be pretty interesting. I mean, we've most commonly uh, the I don't want to say the mythological part of it, but uh, Dungeons and Dragons, silver dragons have been known to really love to be like take on an elven visage and walk amongst humanity and maybe be a kind of a mentor or guide for the lowly heroes until they're able to obtain higher levels and things. Yeah, silver dragons have been known to be very social. Hmm. Vince says in the 3.5 uh, Draconomicon, some dragons are said to be able to metabolize almost anything, even rock, because they simply burn everything in their stomach. Ooh. Hmm. I didn't see. I never thought they were internally hot, especially like the red dragons. I always liked the idea that they expelled a gas and then use their teeth to ignite the flame. But that's just my own head canon. It doesn't need to apply to that, but that's just been mine. Yeah. Vegan will not cut it. Blood for the blood gods. Ooh, oh, it might not. You're more like, yeah, you do the sacrificing. I'm not going to do that. It would be like a brontosaurus eating all the treetops in the realm. Silver elven godly vegan almighty overlord. That sounds like an anime, like a super bestial mecha god machine, Requiem for the Victims or something like that. I think it's super bestial mecha god machine. But yeah, I think that's the name of it. Dan Kuga, that's it. Super beast, super beast machine god. Maybe it was renamed or something like that. Yeah, super beast machine god. Dan Kuga. Requiem for the. I've always loved those titles. All right, so on this day of dragons, I think let's go large. Let's start out large and then come in small. So for you, how many dragons do you think makes like equates to a day of dragons, right? Would it be a dozen? Would it be dozens more? Would they gather in like quorums, like the reds in one side and the greens in another side? Like would they land and settle upon the landscape or circle overhead? I'm not sure. Um, I mean, depending on how many more dragons you like, past two, um, would it would be up to you how much of the landscape would really be devastated by their mere presence, especially if you're one who feels that dragons themselves, by merely existing, almost um, artificially affect the world and create an aura where for miles around. So if you had dozens or hundreds of dragons, just existing, they might affect how magic even operates. They could affect time in the celestial system, meaning maybe the sun never rises, or they could affect the landscape. I feel it would be even interesting. And here, let me throw in a little mechanism here that um, the very atmosphere becomes dragonized. Like the clouds become multicolored, and it's possible for geysers of acid or flame to erupt from the ground or shoot down from the sky, and that poisonous gases and acidic gases and even dreamlike gases would flow through the atmosphere and things like that just by their mere presence. Um, you know, the idea of humanity being underneath essentially the gods doing battle with each other. Maybe the dragons have this innate or territorial or bestial or animal thing in their brain where they start to clash a little bit, much like horned animals that like, rams and goats and stuff that like headbutt each other. Maybe the dragons kind of breathe fire and smoke and ash and acids, and they claw and bite at each other. Not necessarily for murderous intent, but like to show superiority, or maybe it's just a breeding type of thing where they're just aggressive at each other, which is why dragons don't like to collect in large groups, but they are somehow. And so I imagine like the poisonous gases that flow through the city with the people like, almost post-apocalyptic on the Day of Dragons. They're like covering their faces and battening down the hatches, and they're like, oh, here comes some I don't know, green noxious fumes flowing over the city, and everyone ducks down as like roof shingles start to erode and trees start to die and blacken and whatnot. And maybe that comes from the sky as the PCs look overhead, and they're like, oh no, the red and blacks are starting to fight again. The greens and golds are going at it and stuff like that. Vince says there are some unique dragon designs in How to Train Your Dragon. For example, a dragon that expels gas with one head and ignites it later with the other. Yeah. I actually, I thought I would be upset and like pouty mouthed with the How to Train Your Dragon series, but I think they're excellent movies. they're they're pretty cool, right? Like there's something about the How to Train Your Dragon series that like you said, there's some unique dragons. I mean, their body shapes, their oh, I don't know, um, the the creativity from the artists that created them. Some super skinny, others big like blowfish and things like that. Let's see, how to train. Let's see, your dragon. Let's see if we can get some really cool images of some dragons. Oh yes, yes, I know. Toothless. What's a better way? That's cute. Um, I need a good prompt to find the other dragons in that series. Night Fury, Toothless, Stormfly. Mm, I need a good prompt to find them. I know you guys can figure that out. Vince is almost like there are only dragon Pokemon in their Viking world. Yeah, it does seem like that. Which on the Day of Dragons, maybe that's a thing, right? Like every dragon on the Day of Dragons doesn't need to be an ancient, brilliant thing. Like um, it makes the assumption that all dragons are intelligent and can speak, but we've seen the more drake, worm, wyvern styled dragons, serpentine type dragons that are more animalistic. And on a Day of Dragons, maybe the dragon riders come out of the out of the woodwork, and they're just like, only on this day could humanity and dragons come together as one, or something like that. And really, they're not really, come to find out that they're not air quotes real dragons, but basilisks, wyverns, serpents, drakes, pseudo dragons, and things like that that actually make up the majority of the dragons. And then that's how you get like maybe the player characters do become dragon riders, at least for the day, or that they're able to find the dragon eggs the dragons have taken to the sky, and now only now are the dragons not defending their lairs or their territories for the player characters that only have 24 hours to find themselves a dragon egg, or to mount a bunch of winged creatures that have breath weapons but aren't exactly dragons by stat block, and to take to the sky to travel someplace and know that they've got to get back by a certain time before the day ends, or at the end of the day. It may also be how minor dragons transform to greater dragons as they compete for, they do battle with each other, consuming each other, uh, gaining in size as they start, devouring each other or something. That may be a thing as well. Vince is talking about their sizes and stuff like that. Like one city size would be enough for me, like 50 cow sized. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the Critical Role anime, there were only like four really big dragons attacking the city and destroying everything. Yeah. How to Train Your Dragon surely must involve massive quantities of dragon crack. What would that be? Is there a catnip for dragons? Mm-mm-mm. Jude says, maybe the dragons are like those in Asia, and thus the Day of Dragons is always a good omen. Of course, it happens only every 12 years in the year of the dragon. Yeah, there's no reason why the Day of Dragons has to be destructive and post-apocalyptic, but it could send a message to the population. Like, let's say this happens every 12 years, and the Day of the Dragon may be the first day, like how every people are born on the year of something. Like I think I was born a year of the dog, whatever. So maybe the first day of the year of dragons is the Day of Dragons, where they do take to the sky and they are honored. And that's where magic and gifts to the population and things like, for example, if you want to reskin and reflavor Dungeons and Dragons, maybe your world doesn't have any dragonborn, but not in the classic sense. So maybe there are humanoids, human beings, gnomes, elves, or whatever. And on the Day of Dragons, they are blessed or gifted or touched or something. When a dragon swoops down and grabs a random human being off the ground or street or whatever, and bestows upon them, therefore them being dragon born, or maybe small children are born on that day, and they are honored by the dragons. Maybe they have like a birthmark shaped like a dragon, and they have the capabilities of dragonborn, but they just look like an elf or a gnome or a halfling or something like that. Just reflavoring the exterior or something. Yeah, the day the dragon emperor is crowned. Ooh, ooh. What if there are other big bads in the world, and somehow one of them will be crowned like the dragon emperor and gain the benefits of being allied with the dragons for the rest of the year. So every 12 years there's like a vampire lord or a lich or like a wizard or some kind of a warrior overlord or something, and pick some random big bad evil guy type monsters. But on that day, it they know that if they can just gain just one more advantage, and like, could you imagine a lich is just like, yeah, I've got the blessing of the dragons, and like, Tiamat and all her dragons and stuff like that, and the lich is like, hell's yeah, time to assemble my army. you know yeah. Flight of the Dragons, an early 80s movie about a science teacher who becomes a medieval dragon. He learns to fly and breathe fire. I've never heard of that one. M- Mine was a Dragonheart. Yeah. How to Train Your Dragon, Dragon Types is prompt for searching. Okay, here we go. Train Your Dragon. Um, let's see. Let's see. Let's get some images. Here we go. There you go. Here it is. There's a lot of them. I know you won't be able to see these, but YouTube names, can't see them. Oh man. But listen, I think using the How to Train Your Dragon as a prompt is a good idea, because remember that mixing and matching damage types, appearances, um, shapes, and sizes, and things like that. Like, we don't have to. There's nothing telling us in our own imaginations um, that we have to stick to any type of. is that a Dragon Classes Eggs How to Train Your Dragon franchise? I have explained the dragon classes and shown the dragons of each class, including their eggs. There is a YouTube and a family tree of all the dragons and their eggs and the different types. It's very, very Pokemon-ish. Very cool. Okay. All right. But yeah, there's nothing that tells us that we have to stick to anything, right? You guys know that. And so for those who come upon it, like breath weapons are you could you could very easily make a random table of what the 10 to 12 damage class types, and then you write down like a side table of like ray, blast, cone, wall, cloud. Like I'm able to breathe a, I don't know, psychic cloud of debris or something, or it could be you could get um very strange with it, but I think it would be kind of cool. Mm-mm-mm. Druden says, I have to say that the most interesting aspect of the How to Train Your Dragon was for me always that it deals with disabilities, which was refreshing to have not the same ableism nonsense. Yeah, I mean, the really cool thing about I love about the Train Your Dragon series is the main character technically is disabled, but they don't really like it's not dwelled upon. And maybe the Day of Dragons is like represents embracing the power that is within each person. And for a short time there was some what I internet a-holes that were just like anti wheelchair and all that kind of bullshit that was in whatever. Anyway, because someone came up with a battle wheelchair, and it was just like, this is stupid and blah blah blah, it shouldn't be there. But who's to say that? And we know that in a modern day context, that there would be plenty of people through life and disease and injury and battle and things like that that would have some form of what we would classify as disabilities, but maybe those people become the dragons. Like there are individuals who haven't yet embraced the power that's within them, but when they do, it's like all of a sudden they become the emperors of the world. That individual who, sure, are they bedridden? Yeah, but their mind is powerful. Is that person blind? Yeah, but the things that they can see go beyond what they see visually, but see into the hearts of men and stuff. And maybe they don't become air quotes dragons, but they become marked. Yes, I know dragon marks exist in Eberron, but something different. uh, can dragons get addicted to? Search dragon species from How to Train Your Dragon. All right, let's see. Let's see if that comes up better. Dragon species, dragon species from, oh, bam, kind of some of the same prompts, and then we've got some images of the different dragons. Let's see if that'll get that a little bit larger from our main cast. Yeah, we've got our two-headed dragon here, very Hydra-like, and then I think the little frosty one, and the flying little red one, and then of course we have our main dragon with electricity, and our belchy dude right here. I don't remember their names. Yeah. How to Train Your Dragon species quiz. Let's see what. Let's see if we can go here. Ah, so it breaks them down. Wyvern, Drake, Worm, Lung Dragon, Drakes, Amphithera, and Lindworm. Mm-mm-mm. Ah, that's kind of cool. Where am I at? I am at proproofs.com. Quiz School, How to Train Your Dragon Species. which of the dragon species take the form of winged serpents, which these are species of flying dragons, which of these dragon species are enigmatic and curious. Latvian, cute. Which of dragon species is two-headed? Yeah, and mind you, listen, we can absolutely positively mix and match all this stuff. Mix and match like how large they are, what abilities they have, and things like that. And I also think it might be a great way for like the player characters, like on this Day of Dragons, maybe one or more of the dragons actually need adventurers to go out to maybe different places to gather, like gathering materials for the nest of birds, right? Like, or to gather ancient lore or something of that nature. That might be kind of the thing that the player characters are intended to do in this Day of Dragons, in which it might not be as much a physical dragons ravaging the world, but it may be this is the opportunity to gain like true knowledge about the workings of the universe if you could only just get their attention. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Hmm. Currently watching Heart of Ilinthi campaign from Jocat, and in his setting, dragons are actually a special title and power given to special individuals who then can turn into dragons, which I like. And the campaign is about getting the hearts of these dragons for a special ritual, and this usually involves the PCs fighting the dragon or completing some kind of challenge from them. But the dragons are usually good and pillars of their city or region, which this may be like the idea that um, special individuals are given a special title. Like the dragons don't need to have a physical presence. They may be seen physically, but they are actually more ephemeral, cloud-like, ghostly forms that circle around. And people, it's almost like a day of like asking the gods, but they're really just dragons, right? For something or someone, or to give of themselves. We've mentioned before about a rite of passage. Maybe individuals have been training their whole lives to to attain a specific level of power or influence or something of that nature, and this is the day where they stand upon the hill or crest or the tower, and the black dragon, the green dragon, the copper dragon swoops down and kind of flows into that person, or maybe becomes more like an avatar behind them, and the dragon gives of their heart to that person, and now that individual um, may go on to do big and great things. And if we don't want to just make it good or evil, it could just be whatever's in the heart of that person. That person stands upon the the great hill or something, and there's a half a dozen people standing up there. And when that black dragon swoops and grabs their kid, or places a claw, stands behind the child and hands over a blackened heart and gives it to the kid, and the kid takes it and goes to their chest, and the parents are like, no. The uncle's like, yeah, I always knew he was bad. Right. I think that might be excellent as well, which could, in some ways, as a prologue, right, alert the players like, hey, we grew up with these people, and now this person's going to become a big bad, and they're like a relative of mine, blood or not. Like, yeah. Mike Marin says, I think most players and DMs are mostly familiar with the D&D 5e dragon stat block. So I think it is wise, as you say, DBJ, to make proto dragons, wyverns, drakes, and flying lizard beasts instead. And change it up a little bit, right? Like, um, we don't need to be as static with a thing like, well, blue dragons are lightning and black dragons are acid, and like changing the shape of the breath weapon if you want to, the colors, describing like, do they have bat wings, bird wings, insectoid wings? What kinds of insectoid like wings are they? Are they butterfly or dragonfly, or maybe closer to wasps or something like that? Winged creatures, are they more bat and smooth and silky, or are they kind of tattered from being like aged and whatnot? And we don't know if these dragons, what kind of condition they're in: diseased, wounded, impregnated, and things of that nature. And also, we think of dragons as being lizard-like, related to lizards, frogs, and other salamanders and things like that. So they may not be male or female. They may just they have they aren't genderized. They can both lay eggs and impregnate others, and it may require humanity. Maybe humanity is like, listen, this is the way we stop dragons from taking over the world, by um, a city that is built literally around protecting the eggs of dragons that breed with each other, and they only come together once every 12 years, and this is where they lay their eggs, or they sleep or something, and the people here protect the dragon because the dragon protects them. And on the day of dragons, the corner of your setting is where those dragons rise from their slumber, and the people are just like, yeah, like, um, dragon warriors and dragon wizards or something is where their power comes from. Yeah, Vince says, I mean, some people think dragons are the ultimate embodiment of the hunter. It combines the puma for trees, eagle and air, and snake for land. Uh, Threatens humans had for millennia. There are even different warning shouts from monkeys for each of these types of predators. Um, I think he's thinking of like in the trees, right? Because we're on the same path, although coming from it from a different point of view. Because I always felt that dragons are the embodiment of our fears: fire, um, um, predatory bears, tigers, wolves. Also, their large size, like large lizards, elephants, and things, and they fly through the air, like ravens and bats and whatnot. And that dragons, it wasn't till modern society that we've thought of dragons the way their bodies are shaped. But ancient dragon, I mean, initially the descriptions of dragons was far more Lovecraftian than they are today. Um, they were more like Hydra size, multiple heads, eyes, dream-like, horror-like, and things like that. So I think they, like Vince is mentioning, I think of them as, yeah, like Vince says, predators who hunt in trees or can climb. Um, you know, People are afraid of crocodiles and snakes and monkeys and um, cheetahs and tigers, and if you were to merge them all together, they're pretty dragon like. Yeah, yeah, that they're based upon snakes and pumas and eagles. Yep, yep. And there's no reason why we can't describe them that way either. It could also. What if the Day of Dragons is when there is a ascension, a apotheosis of sorts for some kinds of animals and monsters and creatures. Those pesky kobolds may, go from kobold to lizard folk to dragonborn, or draconians to dragons as well. Um, the there's a number of things that we could do as well. Vsauce made a good video 6 years ago called "The Invention of Dragons." Ooh, I'm gonna look that up. Which would explain why there are dragon myths all over the planet if they are based on basic fears. Yeah, I've always thought that they were based on basic fears, and then over time, different cultures came together, and then their fears are like, oh, I was thinking the same thing you thought, and then I think dragons are imagery of dragons today is a culmination of different fears and things of dragons with different cultures combined together, right? And then they became their own thing, where someone's like, I didn't think of dragons flying, but then they just gave me a brand new fear. Thanks, travelers from another place. I appreciate the extra fear. Yeah. See the mm-mm-mm. Dragons of Pern. Yep. See the novel series Dragons of Pern if you want more of the concept of dragons as the protector of humanity. Yeah, the Dragons of Pern series. Let's see. How many books are there? Is that Piers and McCafferty? Okay. I was like, say Piers Anthony and Dragon Riders. Damn it. Where it is. 20 series comprises 24 novels and two collections of short stories. Very, very much, very much Aragorn, the old failed Aragorn movie series where humans bond with dragons, they become dragon riders, and that's a very common thing too, especially amongst art. You always have like a dragon warrior on the back of the dragon, or the seductress with the dragon wrapped around her, or something like that. That's very common too, because not only are we fearful as humanity, we also like to prove our base bravery and courage by confronting the things that we fear. And a person who has bonded with a dragon is a person who has dominated all their fears and makes them a powerful individual amongst themselves. The person who stands before a dragon and has a bond with the dragon, they mind control the dragon. They're friends with the dragon. It's their pet. They are a bonded pair of any sort. Makes that person pretty influential, noble wise. So I could see on the Day of Dragons that nobles would, when a person is placed upon the throne as a dragon emperor, they don't even have to have any powers. Just being chosen by a dragon would make other people go, yeah, that person, they are remarkable in and of themselves, despite any stat blocking that we would do in our games. Druden says, I would say the predator aspect is only stakes. The fire and such is more part of the embodiment of chaos dragons represent. Yeah, I mean, wildfires, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, hell, even hail. I think those things, mudslides, are kind of attributed to dragons as well, or bestial entities. So, yeah, I think it's all wrapped up into the same thing, which doesn't necessarily mean that the Day of Dragons has to have dragons. For example, a volcano could erupt and it's blamed on the Day of Dragons, or a dragon is flying overhead and everyone knows that natural disasters are going to be more common simply because the dragons are walking upon the earth. We see them and it's like, oh no, that means the storm clouds are purple and yellow and orange. They walk upon the earth, the ground will break and move and shatter, randomly and things. So I agree, the chaos of the world Drew has been blamed, I think, on dragons and vice versa. Um, how do you explain chaos? Well, it's because of this thing. Yeah. Yeah, since if you look at the ancient stories like Tiamat, who is chaos, in the same Indo-European mythology of the warrior who slays the dragon, is the oldest versions about slaying snakes and things. Yeah, because a lot of times you'll see the imagery has morphed from like a warrior with a snake kind of wrapped around them, and then if you kind of think of like the serpentine nature of Far East Asian styled snakes, and then um, Inca Aztec snakes to Coatl with a snake but has wings, but it doesn't really have any claws. And then we have like the dragonized ones without wings and things. So I think what's happening is it's a it's all of humanity having this same fears, maybe missing one aspect, and then over time we've combined those aspects together. So yeah. Yep, like myth, like Vince says. Myths are usually multiple things combined over time. So different influences mixed together make more sense to me. Yep, yep, yeah. And he says also you can see it in the other name for dragons, which is worm. Yep, 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 yep. And was it worms and lindworms are like a Nordic? Jemungensher, which I know I'm butchering the name, the serpent snake that wraps around the world. It's kind of its own dragon. Yeah. Maybe the Day of Dragons is the first day dragons showed up in the world. Ooh, and this day new dragons spawn from volcanoes. Yeah, why not? I mean, maybe this is as humanity has fought to slay all these damn things. The Day of Dragons is like, all right, people. You see, you know the warriors are assembling together. They're getting their shoulders rubbed. They're like a little bit sweaty. It's like a boxing tournament, right? They're getting their hands wrapped. They're like shadow boxing, and they're a little bit sweaty. They got the towel over their shoulders, and they're like, in this corner, all the dragon slaying warriors, and everybody's like pushing their favorite dragon slaying warrior out because on the Day of Dragons, there's going to be brand new ones, and everybody knows when the new dragons come about. Every 12 years, we're going to be inundated by dragons again, and the whole process starts all over again as the dragons are slain. Maybe the dragons come about and they're like hungry and like they need the dragons are born from volcanoes, earthquakes, mudslides, coming out of the ocean, and then yeah, Ring of Fire. Yeah, there was a movie about dragons showing up in the modern world and wreaking havoc. It was the Rain of Fire, and so maybe the Day of Dragons is where you say, you know what, I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench into my setting. On this day, this is where we're just gonna be just inundated by dragons, and they're born, and maybe in the beginning they're younglings, they are mindless, they are animalistic. All they want to do is feed, breed, um, gather food for its gather supplies for its nests, wherever those nests might be. And then very quickly over a period of time, they start becoming larger, intelligent, learning magic, things like that. Maybe people uh, try to bond in some form, way, shape, or form with the dragons before they become too powerful, which kind of like prevents the we need to slay them all opportunity. And then you've got people who are like, why are we trying to kill them? They deserve to live here just like everybody else. And maybe there are cults or druidic circles or something like that, wizards who are like, if we teach them magic, maybe they'll just go away. We have precedent for this thing happening. Yeah, check out the array of dragons in the world of Shadowrun. We've got Western dragons, Eastern dragons, feathered serpents. Yep. So it could also be uh, the Day of Dragons could also be the time when your players, especially if they're brand new, come to find out that, oh, they're not all the same. they're not all fire breathing beasts. There are some nice ones and small ones and different ones and multi-headed ones and feathered serpent ones and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. And like you guys mentioned earlier that you know how many players have read the stat blocks of most of the dragons. They know them like by heart. But to reskin, reflavor, reuse some of like the wyverns, I call them wyverns because I just think like it sounds kind of dangerous instead of wyverns. Yeah, wyverns and drakes and serpents and things. Maybe they are like the uh, the bastardized children of true dragons, and it's also a great way to introduce them for lower level play into the world. Now, you will get some players who might say, well, should we be just murder killing them all? That depends, right? You could just basically say they're all world devastators. It doesn't matter what alignment they are. Having so many exist, they can't exist together in a flock circling overhead for hundreds of miles, as a dark cloud blotting the sky from their winged passage or something. They've got to go, and if we can't kill them, at least they have to find, you know, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here, kind of thing, right? Um, but it could also be that they've always been, over this period of time. It could always be that it wasn't dinosaurs that died out, it was dragons that took over the world and something else eliminated them. And a 10th level spell, a meteor swarm times 100 or something that killed the dinosaurs, and it was like they weren't dinosaurs, they were dragons. And today represents their time where they step into the spotlight and become the kingmakers of the world, which would be kind of cool. I mean, if a player sees you know a half dozen green dragons circling over a city state, they may understand like, ooh, we better be careful, right? And it could be one ancient green dragon, two younglings, maybe about three wyverns or something like that, right? It doesn't necessarily, and they could all look like air quotes green dragons in different states of being. Your lizard folk look like the green dragons with superior warrior types able to breathe out some gaseous fumes or something, and a shaman that's able to slam a staff on the ground and transform into a triple sized humanoid dragon person or something or whatever. Um, Vince says Day of Dragons it shifted a little bit, is where the new dragon riders get knighted. That's a good thing too. Maybe they do bond with a dragon, and the dragon knight and the dragon become one. Where it this is the way we can civilize or humanize the animalistic dragons. They start to learn speech and what civilization is, and they become calm, and don't want to murder, kill everything, and eat everything. At the same time, maybe the knighted individuals become more dragon-like, a little more arrogant, more brilliant, maybe long-lived, that kind of thing. Black Dragon Knight warrior, immune to acids or resistant to acids and things, maybe staying up at night. I don't know, their eyes become black and oily. Maybe their skin starts to change over time. Yeah, maybe at one point they do bond together. The rider and the knight and the dragon become one at some point in time. Dead Man says in Shadowrun, there's also leviathans, which are dragons of the sea, or sea dragons. They're usually found in deep saltwater habitats. They're about 25 meters long and serpentine in appearance. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of art and other things related to ships being pulled down into the ocean and being ravaged by sea serpents and whatnot. Of course, that's human beings and our fears, maybe relating killer whales and blue whales and octopi and starfish and swordfish and hammerhead sharks and great white sharks all blended together. It's like sea serpents and things like that. Yeah. What I never got is why dragon stat blocks. They not just include dragons of other monsters in different age classes. Some books do this, but it is rare. I always felt like dragon age stat blocks are a waste of space because they could just make one stat block and then put a modifier behind each of the stats that are listed in it to go like, this is a young one, this is a middle-aged one, this is an ancient one, right? Like hit points 200, 100 for young, 200 for medium, 400 for ancient, right? Yeah, I never understood that. And also, why don't they include more variations of monsters like they do dragons for other monsters? Like, I've always felt trolls should have been this way, right? Like where, excuse me, where a troll, there could be a rust monster troll, a basilisk troll. Like there's I don't know, the toll booth troll. Like why don't they have variations of that? Yeah, baby trolls. Yep, baby trolls, ancient trolls. Yeah. No, I'm not in your head. You're in my head. but I'm with you, right? Like why? I, I never understood that at all. I don't get it. It's almost like there's a yeah, want a new monster, get D100, mix the two together. Hell yeah. Yeah. Why not? Right? Um, Trolls are one of my favorite. I'm surprised they don't make. We understand we've got our goblinoids, right? Goblin variations, orc variations, hobgoblin variations. I don't know why there aren't dozens of those as well. And the giants, all kinds of giants, right? Young adolescent giants, old decrepit giants, magic using giants, giants that are barbaric and assassinate, thieving, assassin, rogues type, um, ranger type giants. You can go on and on with all the monsters. Yeah, yeah. Roll two random monsters. What would that be? Yep, dragon giants. Yeah. How come there are no fire giant vampires? How come there aren't any? Um, I don't know, dragon riding hobgoblins or something. Yeah, giant halflings. Use human stats. Yeah, giant halflings. Dragonborn giants. Yeah, you could, but the reason for that, all that stuff, is because it would get a little too complicated unless everything had yeah, vampire dragons. I mean, it could get to the point where you're like, you would have to turn everything into a um not a stat block, a an overlay, a like you, you could separate everything into little modules and then stack those modules on top of each other. That's why you don't have half races, because you would literally have to make an Excel sheet of Excel spreadsheet of every humanoid race, playable race, versus combined with every other playable race, and then start to mix them together. Okay, halfling and gnome, halfling and uh, um, dwarf, halfling and elf, halfling and dragonborn, halfling and tiefling, and then you'd have templates. Thank you there, Druden. Um, duh, it's it happens when I'm live. It happens, but yes, you would have to turn everything into a template and then mix and match those templates. But yeah, we could go to uh, yeah, two D100 tables, or two, or roll, yeah, 100 monsters and roll twice on them. And if you get the same monster twice, it's two headed. Or in level up advanced fifth edition, you get an elite monster. Basically, you fight one monster, but it's basically doubled up. It gets twice the attacks, twice the damage, twice the hit points, twice the. Yeah, right now, I don't know. We could go to Chat GPT and plug something in very quickly if you want to. Chat GPT, give me 100 different classic fantasy monsters, and then multiply, and then do that twice, and then you have a list. Or um, you could, if you want to reduce, maybe not D100, maybe D20, D12, and then you put an adjective, the adjective, noun, that verbs kind of thing, like twice the AC. Yeah, it's got a 36 AC. Why? Well, it normally has an 18. All the player characters like folding and getting pouty faced. I'm going to buy a small table and flip it. Oh shit, yeah. Um, we didn't go too deep into this Day of Dragons. We're going to have to revisit it again. I think, you could have a lot of daimonism with people who worship the dragons, people who want to bond like knighthood with the dragons, where they're more like allies slash pets. And then you have people who want to slay all the dragons. They all need to die. Whereas there may be individuals who are like, listen, I don't like back to the, they ain't got to go home, but they can't be here kind of thing. So there may be people who are like, dragons, you gotta go, and we got to figure out a way to get rid of the dragons. There may be people who don't just want to slay the dragons, but steal their power. Um, you know, killing them to use their scales and organs and such. I mean, it would be a little bit awkward for a PC to have dragon armor, and then from their there's scales and stuff, and then a dragon looks at him like, "You're not expecting me to be nice to you, are you?" And the person's like dressed in dragon plate mail, like, listen, I was given these scales, so I didn't actually kill another dragon. And dragon sniffs him like, yeah, I don't believe you. Next time with twice the amount of human sacrifice. like a like the infomercials, it's double the dragon. And the Ron Popeil or something like, wait, do you mean two different dragons together? Yes. Set it and forget it. Vince says, my first is air elemental plus bandit captain. Next, flump plus goblin. So flump plus goblin, does that mean the goblin jumps in the air and lands its spiky buttocks onto its victims? For a good thing, for a good reason, because it's good. Air elemental and bandit captain is actually a good one. I like that. The bandit captain / pirate brings upon windstorms and stuff that blow people back, and it uses the air elemental as cover to commit its crimes. And of course, when they escape on small boats to get across the river, enemies try to go after them, and the air elemental blows them back or something like that. Yeah, maybe the bandit captain lives in a floating island or city, or very high up in the mountains, or treetops or something like that. Yeah. Vince says, I like combining stuff. There was an air elemental used in the very first, I think it's called Sojourn, the very first Dritz novel, where Dritz's dad was a great swordsman and jumped into an air elemental who was carried across the caverns of Menzo Barons, and I know I'm butchered that name, into an enemy fortress or something, and that's how he flew. Again, would be a neat episode for your show. Yeah, combining stuff. Oh, ooh, okay. Um, yeah, maybe I'll come up with a list, and then we'll kind of like we'll do like a random like, hey, completely random, and combining stuff together and seeing like how that works. I like that. Dead Man is ending us on, like the Dragon Lords of Krynn, they all wore dragon scale armor, though there was no explanation of how they got the armor. Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, we would have a problem if some other alien race started wearing human skin, right? Like we would, even if the aliens were like, but it was given to us. I don't think so. You're wearing one of my grandparents over your shoulder. Day of Fusion, Day of the Double Dragon. Don't do that. Don't, Drew. Seriously, Day of the Double Dragon. Let's see. Double Dragon. There's the video game and there's the movie. Let's go with the movie. There it is. Double Dragon. Day of Fusion. Yeah, I mean, if you're friendly dragons, they still die. Yeah. Day of the never-ending elbow punch. Yep. Really, Drew? Really? Yeah, no, not very good. Yeah. IMDb. Here we go. Let's visit IMDb. Share this tab instead. There we go. Boop, 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 boop. Ah, shit, I can't get damn ads. Double Dragon. Yeah, I might get dinged on it slightly, but power, justice, darkness, light. When was this made? When was this? This was made in Two Brothers. I don't know. I can't remember. 90s looks it looks more 80s. Day of the hair pull kick. Yep. Day of the elbow in the back of the head with the knee to the face. Double dragon. Mm-mm-mm. I know this is going to get dinged, but I don't care. Yeah. No. But you know that's is that Brandon Lee? Yeah, that is old. No, that's Mark DeCosos. DeCostas? DeC- DeCostas. That is shit. I can't. Mm-mm-mm. Double Dragon. Yeah, it was this is definitely 80s. This is definitely 80s cuz it's very like the blade skates. Yeah, 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 yeah. Was that CGI? Was that very uh-oh, a person in a monster suit in a martial arts flick. You got to have that. Sorry. I should be in the chat here. There we go. 1984. 1994. Sorry, looked it up. Yep. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That ooh. Wow. All right, let's get out of here. Oh man. Yeah. Thanks YouTube for not shutting down the chat. I really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, uh thanks for letting me thanks for letting me indulge in that. We'll definitely have to do this. Maybe like you said, a day of fusion or something. Oh man. But I'm mentally exhausted. Although we didn't get too far in this Day of Dragons. I think tomorrow, damn, I can't. I think tomorrow's a day of coins. Um, yeah, if I look, if I've never looked up my own channel on my own thing. Let's go here. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so we're currently live on that. Yep. So upcoming on the channel, Day of Coins, and then on Thursday evening is the excuse me. Let me see if I can get this a little bit larger. Um, Day of Coins, and then on Thursday evening we do. Can I close this down? I can't. Okay, so Day of Coins is for tomorrow, and then for Thursday evening we have our interview, and then we have the Day of Paragons, and we that ends ourselves on Friday, and then after that we have the Day of Spiders, Day of the Wish. I specifically said Day of the Wish instead of Day of Wishes. I was debating whether to make it the Day of wishes or the day of the wish, because it would be interesting to have one wish granted to one person on this particular day, and what the lengths people will go through for that. The Day of Ghosts, and of course ghosts can mean anything: ghosts, wraiths, specters, banshees, all that kind of stuff. Day of Healing, and then lastly the Day of Synths. A little high tech in here maybe, or constructs and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's what's coming up. Boop, 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 boop. Come on, come on, let me. Day of Viciousness. Yeah, Day of Wish sounds like a tournament arc to me. Okay, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, because who better to get the wish, and then how do you measure who gets it? Is it a physical confrontation? Is it mental? Maybe it's all the above, right? It's like you have to measure your morality and your ethics and your physical prowess. Oh, and how tough you are, how much knowledge you have, everything, how charismatic you are speaking, public speaking and convincing people to vote for you, and also your wisdom. Do you trust in your instincts to let you navigate a thing or do a thing, right? How perceptive are you? Can you balance that? I think that would be kind of a cool tournament style, challenge style day where for 24 hours, the greatest come together to compete, like a lottery, to compete for something. Here in the United States, we have the Mega Millions, which is like past $2 billion now, that we're kind of competing for too. So, not really competing in a general sense; it's more gambling. But yeah, that's a thing too. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all of you being here. I'm taking up too much of your time. Your time is valuable. Thank you very much. I have to go, and you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow for the Day of Coins. Have a great one. Peace.